Hello again. Today I'd like to just follow up on our discussion of marriage as a sacrament with the spirituality of marriage. If marriage is not simply a human construct for Christians, if it is part of a divine plan to do what? To unite two people in love and the unconditional nature of their love is a sign and a symbol of the unconditional love of God for the human race. And it's such a beautiful thing to see a couple that's been together for decades and decades and have grown to become one. And that is the core spirituality of marriage, is to become one, that the two shall be as one. And that symbol, which has a sexual connotation to it clearly, the two shall be as one, has also a profound emotional, psychological, relational meaning as well, of the two becoming one. That's the core spirituality of marriage, the two becoming one. Now, the way in which that's done is through the muck and the mire of being married. So when we were looking at John Gottman's book on the principles for making marriage work, those are actually sort of some of the tools, there are plenty of others, some of the tools that help the two to become one, because that's not an easy thing to do, and there are plenty of obstacles to it. So that one reason why we read Gottman's book was it fits every marriage, whether it's a Christian marriage or not. But it does explain, just because you receive this in a church somewhere with a priest there, there's no magical guarantee that this is going to work. You still have to do the work. And Gottman lays out 7 principles for making that work. I'd like to just lay out a few more principles within the context of faith. This is something that Gottman is obviously not interested in, because that's just not what he's doing. But number 1, a spirituality of marriage includes prayer as part of the relationship. So the couple that learn to bring together their prayer life in some way, are living out a very specific Christian spirituality related to their marriage. It can be very simple ways, grace before meals, talking about the readings that they heard at Mass, and prayers in the evening, praying for people. Very simple, basic things, but highlights to the fact that they're not in this alone. And that creates an incredibly important message, that there is a third person in the marital relationship, and that's God. And to turn always to that in prayer, together and individually. A second part of it would be a specific life of faith related to the Eucharist. Attending Eucharist together can be an affirmation, a profound affirmation, of the sacrament, not only of communion, but of marriage as well. Friends of mine who are married for near 50 years come up to communion holding hands and receive together. And for them, that's what this is all about. Others may do it in a less noticeable way, but hopefully it has a bonding ingredient to it. So prayer, Eucharist, and the third one would be service, recognizing that the vocation of marriage goes beyond husband and wife and even beyond children. I'll get to kids in a minute, to the outer world, to the world in which they live. And so finding ways to be active as a couple as not just Tony, but Tony and Helen. Not just Helen, but Helen and Tony. So that there's a power to this that's shaped not just by the individual, but by the couple as well. And then the fourth one is, of course, children. A big part of the spirituality for many couples is bringing new life into the world and caring for that life and nurturing that life. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen for everyone. It is seen to be, a core part of marriage in the Catholic tradition. But if for some reason a person or a couple can't have children, it does not lessen the validity and even the depth of their marriage. It may, in fact, be a pathway to greater service to the community, since there are no children at home to care for. But this is an important point. In the Catholic tradition, for a couple preparing to marry, they have to when they meet the priest, they have to say that they're at least willing to bring children into the world. That this is a core element of Catholic spirituality that one embraces when one embraces marriage. Now, can there be exceptions to that? Yeah, there can. And not just necessarily biological ones. But is the standard rule that this is going to be a core part of one's married spirituality, raising children together. I once created a video called The Sacrament of Parenthood, and talking about how technically being a dad is not a sacrament per se, or being a mom isn't, being a mom and dad isn't, but it sure feels like it. It's so deeply tucked into the sacrament of marriage itself. And it is such a real, evident, visible sign of the invisible love of God. Peace